Kati Koerner, and I'm the Director of Education here at Lincoln Center Theater. And that means that I run all of Lincoln Center Theater's school programs. We send teaching artists out into the schools across New York City. We work with public schools all over the city, and we bring students to our theater to see our shows. We are fortunate enough to be able to bring high school students to see Lincoln Center Theater's productions. Kids have seen everything from Henry IV to The Rivals to South Pacific to new musicals like Desarose and new plays like The Clean House. So a really broad range of shows. And our middle school program is a Shakespeare program. And so we work with a Shakespeare play with middle schools every spring. And then we also have a program that works with English language learners where we send teaching artists into the schools for a long-term partnership with a teacher who's working with recent immigrants who are learning English, and we help support their English language learning through theater. And then we have a program, our fourth program is a songwriting program, because we do so many new musicals here at Lincoln Center Theater. It seemed logical to have some kind of extension of that in our education program. So we send professional lyricists and composers into classrooms to create characters with students, write songs for those characters, and then the students collaborate with the composer to set those songs to music. In the songwriting program, we send the artists into the schools, and then they write the songs with the kids, and then we pick a song or some songs from each of our project sites, and then I work together with Ira Weitzman, our musical theater producer, who throws his whole self into this project every year and hires an amazing group of performers, some of them from our shows. So we've had folks from South Pacific, folks from Happiness, who sing the student songs. So the kids not only get the experience of hearing their songs in their classroom, but also seeing what it's like to be an artist and have your work interpreted by professionals. And so once a year we put those songs up in the new house. And so the kids get to introduce their song and say, you know, this is what I was thinking when I was writing my song, and then, you know, some amazing performer knocks it out of the park. The mission of the middle school Shakespeare program is to allow, you know, middle school students who live in a heightened state of reality to match their tremendous passions and emotions to the size of the emotions that are present in Shakespeare's plays, and it's a marriage made in heaven. You know, we work with 6th through 8th graders, and they get a chance to take Shakespeare's language into their bodies. They get to delve really deeply into the stories, and we've heard from teachers that that we have the students, you know, cursing each other out with using Shakespeare's language in the hallways, which I have to say is music to my ears. So we wanted to invite the students to sort of solve one of the central crazy staging problems of Cymbeline, which is Posthumus's dream. So Posthumus falls asleep and his family comes back as ghosts, and they're circling around him and they're talking to him, and then Jupiter descends on an eagle and talks to him as well. And so we told the students, well, you know, Lincoln Center Theater, we have $1 million eagle that comes down, and, you know, but how can you do this? If you had this problem, you know, you were staging Cymbeline and you had to have this guy who falls asleep and the ghosts of his relatives show up, and then Jupiter descends on an eagle, what would you do? And so we gave them pieces of the text, we gave them fabric and some, you know, simple props, we gave them music, some instruments, and we basically said, go, you know, solve this problem. And the solutions that they came up with were absolutely extraordinary, with you know, using the fabric as the eagle, and coming up with incredible music and weaving the text into it, so that I spoke to one of our students in intermission here at the Beaumont after they'd seen Cymbeline, and they said, well, I liked our dream better. So I just thought it was a wonderful way of having students relate their own creative experience to, you know, the work of artists on our stage. I have to say my favorite story of sort of that brought the world of the shows and the education department together was during Henry IV. We had an all-student matinee. That's where we pack the Beaumont to the rafters with students. And we only do this occasionally. We generally like to have students come together with our regular audience, because after all, we're all people. We should all be sitting there in the space hearing these stories together. But for scheduling reasons, on that particular day, we packed kids to the rafters in the Beaumont. And so the show was kind of the Shakespeare equivalent of a rock concert. And the kids were so into it, and the show is so high energy, and it's, again, I mean, it's, you know, big emotions. And but there we sort of had this meta level of, you know, there were a couple of really well-known actors in the production, Kevin Kline and Ethan Hawke. The kids were absolutely cheering for the characters, rooting for them. So at one moment, Hotspur, Ethan Hawke's character, after a sword fight, is killed and dies. And spontaneously, from the very back of the Beaumont balcony, this little voice just plotzed out of this girl's mouth, and she said, "No, Ethan, no!" And because it was this sort of confusion of performer and role that in some sense was just beautiful. I mean, she was rooting for the character, she didn't want him to die, but she was also kind of rooting for the actor, and it was just a great moment in the theater.